If you've been following us over the last few weeks, you can see that we're supporting Movember. I'm making a very bad attempt here that I will give you a bit more detail about starting tomorrow. Some of us, Jared Gilroy, had a bit of a start, and everybody else, of course. But specifically, Tommy Rooney was in conversation with Cathal McShane and with Matty Rowan last week. A powerful watch, well worth checking out. And as I said, it's all part of our support and our sponsor, Gillette's proud support of Movember. Gentlemen, start your razor. So on that theme, delighted to say Sean O'Hara, who's facing into marathon number 4 on day number 4 of November, just another 26 ahead before the month is out. Sean, good morning to you.
Morning, lads. How are you doing?
Good. You're sat on your couch. Is this
I am,
how you position yourself for 20 hours of the day now?
This is feet up, doing as little as possible, getting people to bring me food, look after me until I have to run again the next day.
I presume, though, you have those legs that pump in the cold water around you or anything there as well,
God, no? Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. I've been lucky enough for someone to look after me with a pair of those for the month. So every day after I get home, bit of food, get the legs into those, recovered for the next day.
How do you feel 4 days into 4 marathons in a row?
Mentally, I'm pretty good. Grand. Legs are a bit heavy. They're kind of like, what's going on? Never done this before. What are you doing to us? But I think it'll get to a point now where it'll just be used to it. The body will get used to it and I'll just keep going, you know.
You're not actually a marathon runner, really?
No, not at all. So I took up running during the first lockdown, like a lot of people. Gyms closed, not much going on. We had like 2 kilometres and 5 kilometre radiuses. So there was not much you could really do or far you could go. So decided to take up a bit of running. Did that same silly 5K challenge that everyone did at some stage on Instagram. And then I actually read a book called Finding Ultra and got interested in triathlons and decided that maybe with not much else going on, this might be a chance to take something off the bucket list. So I reached out to an old friend of a friend who coaches runners and triathletes and said I was interested in trying something like that. So started kind of gradually training and building up miles over the course of the first lockdown. During Movember last year, I decided to run my first marathon as a way of raising extra money at the end of the month. I came up with the idea of for 24 hours, for every €5 donated, I would run a kilometre, thinking that maybe people would donate like an extra €100 or so. But unfortunately, it ended up being 42 kilometres worth of money being raised in the 24 hours. Wow. So on 4 days' notice, I went out and ran my first marathon, which was good crack. Wasn't as difficult as I thought. I think I was so pumped up on adrenaline and was so didn't know what was going to be like. I'd never run further than 18 kilometres at that stage. So it was completely unknown to me. So I didn't know what sort of pain was going to lie ahead around the 30 kilometre mark. Yeah. And then from there, I kind of just kept going with the running over the course of the next year or so. And obviously wanting to be more involved in Movember this year and take a bigger step in it, decided to come up with a challenge that I thought would raise a lot of awareness and kind of money around the cause. And that led me to 30 marathons in 30 days, which is a bit insane, but sure.
Just a bit. I was going to ask, how do you train, but is it even possible to train for something like that?
Not really. There's no set rules to it. It's kind of just building up the mileage, getting enough runs in the lead up to it without actually getting any niggles or injuries. So for the last couple of months, with help my coach, I've kind of been building up to about 100-ish kilometres a week. And then I stupidly signed up for the Paris Marathon just over 2 weeks ago today, as a nice little warm-up for the 30 marathon. So I was over in Paris 2 weeks ago, ran that. And then the 2 weeks after it were kind of like feet up, bit more relaxed, looking after myself before starting off on Monday just gone.
Are you doing the same route every day, Sean?
Oh God, no! I'd be bored out of my mind.
Good. I was thinking that, yeah.
So I had one route there for the first 3 days. The plan is to start and finish inside the Hole in the Wall pub in the Phoenix Park every day, and then change the route accordingly from there. The first 3 days were out along the quays, out the coast road, out towards Clontarf and Sutton, and then back through like Donamead, Artane, Coolock, and back to the Phoenix Park then. So finished that yesterday, was delighted to say goodbye to that coast road, especially with the wind yesterday. It wasn't very pleasant. And then today is a fresh little route. So I'm going to run basically around the Phoenix Park mainly today because I have a couple of people that want to join me so they can park their cars, do whatever distance they want, and they're not too far away from their cars then, no matter where they finish up. And I also want to run and get a few pastries during my run today, so I have to fix that in somehow.
I saw you on Instagram having the donuts all right in the middle of the run.
Stop! I'm trying to eat as much as possible.
That was the next thing I was going to ask you, actually. Have you many people joining in with you as you go along?
So yeah, the first day was great. Had a good few people join in. Same again the second day, 1 or 2 people joining for a good chunks of the run. Yesterday was the first day with nobody. So that was nice. And then my headphones died about 20k in. So it was a lonely half marathon to the finish. But a few joining again today, and I've had a lot of people get in touch in the lead up to it, saying they'd love to get involved even if they're running 2 or 3 kilometers, which I suppose is a big part for me as well. As it kind of creates a community vibe around it and gets more people involved, and kind of will help to raise awareness and open the kind of discussions around men's health and men's mental health, which is what I'm aiming to do with this whole challenge, really. So the more people that get involved, the better. Obviously, it'll be easier for people on the weekends when there's people aren't working. They can kind of, and then with that, obviously, I'm going to try and do most of my routes around the Phoenix Park at the weekend, so people, like I said, can park up, run whatever distance they feel like, and they're not too far away from their car then. But then during the week, it'll be kind of obviously a little bit further afield, trying to get the 42k in without being too bored.
Yeah. That's the establish the what now. What's the why?
So I got involved in Movember in 2018. Was my first year ever taking part. Like, I think with a lot of people, I'd kind of seen it happening previous years, especially around, like someone mentioned yesterday, with used to play rugby, and around the team environment, there's a lot about Movember, and you see it with the autumn internationals and November internationals every year. Like the Aussies come over, the Boks come over, and they all have the Tashes going strong, and really starts the conversation around Movember. But I'd never taken part before, and then the year, maybe 18 months before Movember 2018, I'd had a rough enough time with my own mental health. I'd kind of dealt a lot with anxiety and depression that I had going on for years prior, but hadn't really done anything about it. I'd kind of just brushed it under the carpet, kept going, not paid too much attention to it, and hadn't talked to anyone about it, hadn't told anyone about my situation or what the difficulties I've been going through, until maybe mid-2017. It had started to bubble up a little bit worse. I talked to my partner at the time. She was the first person I kind of opened up to about it. And then from that, I looked to get a bit of help, went to counselling and therapy and stuff like that. But that kind of brought everything up to the surface that I brushed under the carpet for years previous. All my panic attacks, anxiety attacks, anything like that was just brought back up. So really struggled for the remainder of 2017 up until around Christmas. 2017 was quite tough. Then eventually kind of spoke out to my parents and kind of talked to a few other people, but I kind of left it so late that it was too late at that stage. And I ended up in St. Pat's University Hospital around Easter of 2018. I was in there for about a month and a half. At the time, kind of seeing psychiatrists, psychologists, doctors, kind of just trying to manage everything that had been going on for me over the previous couple of years. And then had gotten out then a month and a half later, obviously, and had built up this kind of toolbox that a lot of people talk about like how to manage my own mental health and things that were going on. Because the big thing with it, I think a lot of people are aware now, is you don't really fix the issues. You just kind of learn to deal with them and manage them, because they can always like rear their head up again at different points. And obviously people have different triggers and different things going on for themselves that will bring their mental health struggles back to the fore years after they feel like they've really dealt with them. So coming out of hospital, I had obviously built up that toolbox that I was a bit more aware of how I felt and what made me feel the way I felt and what to look out for and what to do or what could help me if I found myself in a situation similar to I'd been in 2017, 2018. And then that obviously all just kind of led up to Movember 2018, where I wanted to find a way of like giving back to everyone who'd been there for me during the previous 12 months as a kind of thank you, or kind of like, still after everything I've been through, it's still quite difficult to open up emotionally to people and be like, so soon after, say thank you for everything they'd done or been through with me. And some people just didn't see it as that big a deal of what they'd done. Like they might have come to visit me once in the hospital while I was in there, but it meant a hell of a lot to me. So it was kind of my way of saying thank you to them without actually saying thank you. So I decided to attempt to grow a mustache in 2018 and raise a bit of money and awareness around mental health. And then that was kind of my first time talking about things that had gone on with me openly, and kind of mentioning on my Instagram, and to kind of friends I probably wouldn't have seen in a while, but still were in touch with over social media. And then that kind of just snowballed on each year since 2018, trying to do a little bit more each year. Obviously, I mentioned last year I ran that marathon to try and raise extra money at the end of the month. I also had my legs waxed last year, which raised a couple of quid at the end. And then this year, obviously, trying to top everything again and attempt something that's a bit mad and will kind of raise a lot of attention around it. And that's kind of the main aim of it, is to get people talking and get as many people involved as possible. Just to open those conversations around mental health and men's health in general with Movember.
Can I take you back, because you've explained an extraordinary journey there. Can I take you back a little bit, because I'm conscious, Sean, that there'll be people who'll be tuned into us this morning or picking this up in the podcast over the course of the next few days who will be familiar with the path and the journey that you've spoken about, and particularly that piece where that moment before you spoke about the anxiety and the panic attacks, and the moment before you open up to your partner about what's going on. And as I said, I am conscious that there'll be people tuned into us who'll be in that mindset at the minute. What was how did you get to that position, or what advice would you have that for people who are in that space and struggling to get out of it?
I think, like, it's said over and over again, but just opening up and talking about it makes it so much better. It's very difficult at the time, especially for me at the time I was going through. I was like a young man who was in a very like kind of masculine environment around sports, and wasn't really talking. No one was talking about their mental health. So I kind of wrongly assumed that people would look at me differently or act differently around me if I told them kind of what was going on in my head, or told them how scared I was going into certain social situations that led to panic attacks and things like that. But then once you kind of get the monkey off your back and talk about it once, it really makes it a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier to talk again and again. It's that old saying of like, a problem shared is a problem halved, and it really is. Because once I talked about it for the first time, I just felt this like almighty weight lifted off my shoulders, and felt more able to kind of bring it up with other people, and realized the more people I talked to, the more common it was, and the more people that are going through very similar situations to me, and people had very similar like triggers to me, and things that like brought up kind of anxiety and depression with them were very similar to my situation. So like, I think just opening up to someone makes it a lot easier. I will admit it's very difficult at the time, because like there is unfortunately there still is a stigma attached to it, especially when you're going through anything like that. It's very hard to think about it clearly and think about it in the right frame of mind, because you do feel sometimes like you're alone, and that no one kind of sees it the same way. But I guess that's what we're trying to do here, is just make it more talked about, that people know they're not alone and they're not going through a situation that people haven't gone through before, and there will always be a better day ahead and light at the end of the tunnel, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And just on that moment, Sean, I presume that when you talk about the anxiety, I presume that it's never as high as the moment before you're bracing yourself to actually open up and speak about it. That must be quite a pivotal, obviously, yeah. and tough moment, I'm sure.
Yeah, heart pumping through your chest. That the fear of like, what's this person going to think of me? Should I say it? Trying to like thinking over and over and over again. Will I stop what I'm doing right now? Will it have to be fine and be grand? But I think it's just, getting over that hurdle, and then the release after you talk about it for the first time is amazing. It's just like, as I said, weight off your shoulders. You do feel like a different person afterwards. So that was a big that was a milestone and a starting block on my kind of journey with my own mental health, I suppose.
And the supports are there for people, obviously, is the message. You had plenty of support, and you've touched on it there. Like there are, even outside of, I think did I see your parents in one of the Instagram videos were there on one of the runs. Like, you've got, obviously people have their own familial supports and through official channels as well.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, there's tons of supports out there for people they're widely available and easily reached, whether it be different mental health charities or different phone lines to call in. And then, of course, obviously you have your family and friends that are constantly around and willing to listen to you. I think with the whole stigma attached to it, people are afraid their friends will think they're a burden, or they'll think that they don't have time to talk about what's bothering them, but they're your friends and your family will make time for you, and it's just realising that and sitting down and having that first conversation about it.
Yeah, it feels like the last sort of 18 months or 2 years that I'd say for years to come, we'll be talking about the impact of it on people's mental health as well. I'm sure about that, but it does feel to me, I don't know how you guys feel, but that people are more open to, you talk about the stigma, but I think that like the conversations now where you pass somebody in the street, a neighbour or somebody you don't know, the conversation about how you're getting on has moved from, oh yeah, I'm grand, how are you, to actually, geez, today hasn't been great. It feels like actually the last 18 months or 2 years has been a big win almost in that way.
Yeah, definitely. It is a funny one because like you said, I do think the last 18 months, 2 years with the pandemic and how isolated a lot of people have been will impact people's mental health for years to come. But on the other side of that, like you said, people are a bit more open with it and willing to chat to John down the road or whoever. They'll stop and it won't be, sure, yeah, I'm grand, the classic Irish thing. It'll be a little bit more like, oh, well, this is actually going on, or I'm having a bad day or a tough day at work. And I think people are more aware of all the kind of difficulties that are going on that are associated with working from home or not being in the office, not seeing people as regularly, not being able to travel and see family who are living further afield. So I think people are more aware of that, so it makes it easier to kind of broach that subject as well and talk about it a little bit easier,
How therapeutic do you find exercise, Sean, for you?
Exercise is a massive, massive part of it for me. I'm actually, funnily enough, I'm not a huge fan of running. Would you believe? Never have been. It's always been that thing of like, either it's nice and slow and boring, or else it's like pushing yourself too hard and it's like, damn, this hurts. There's never a happy medium. But in general, exercise has been massive for me, like whether it be playing team sports back when I was younger or going to the gym and kind of taking part in, like, I did CrossFit for a couple of years before I started the running at the start of the pandemic, and just getting out there and kind of being with people, and kind of having the chats as well as getting kind of those endorphins that are released alongside exercise. They really help, and it's been a massive part for me over the last 2 years and kind of managing my mental health and kind of dealing with it on days that I'm struggling or having a tougher day, just getting outside. And the only thing about the running side of it is, at least with that, you're getting outside and getting some fresh air as well, which is massive and really helps. But with the signing up to the idea of doing a triathlon last year, I think the cycling was the one that I kind of got bitten by the bug of, and loved that. And that's like great for the endorphins, great for enjoying yourself, and you kind of get to see a bit further afield as well with a cycle. So I really kind of loved that over the course of the last 2 years, but unfortunately the last couple of months have been heavily focused on running, so yeah, I've missed that part.
Yeah, I'll be with you on the running side. We'll be keeping a close eye on events. You've been brilliant with your time this morning and brilliant to bring us inside your story, Sean. So thanks a million for that. There's a lot of support coming in for you as well, by the way. And I should mention a couple of comments. One of them from Jack Owens on YouTube here. Some man for one man. Hugely inspiring story, which will help a lot of people. And that was very much the purpose of us wanting to have you on this morning. So well done on that.
Cheers,
and
lads.
One from Ross Galvin as well, saying huge respect to Sean O'Hara, an inspiration to all Mo Bros doing Movember and everyone else out there as well. Keep up the great work, lad. You're making us proud. Mo love, Ross. So there's loads of comments on that tone coming in. What time are you out at this morning?
Looking to kick off about 10:30 this morning. So I've been starting at 10 every other morning, but obviously made an exception this morning to talk to you lads. So I'll get out at 10:30 and hopefully be finished-ish around 3 o'clock.
Good man. Well, we appreciate that. At Sean O'Hara 2 on Instagram, am I right?
Yep, that's the one. Thanks very much, lads.
Really and Movember.ie if people want to get along. And you don't have to be as crazy as Sean and go and run that 30 marathons in 30 days. Right?
Definitely not. Wouldn't recommend it.
There's other stuff to do as well. Good man. Well done. And best of luck over the next 26 days. Sean O'Hara there running 30 marathons in 30 days. And absolutely 100% fair play to him. But I ain't ever doing that. That's if I ever get to manage one marathon. And I'll be delighted with myself, Mick. But good on him. And as I said, Movember.ie if you want to get along and contribute.